Welcome back to Nation of Glory. Today, we bring you the story of a man whose name has been etched into American history as one of the most skilled, fearless, and selfless warriors to ever wear the uniform. Christopher Scott Kyle, a United States Navy SEAL sniper, whose courage on the battlefield and devotion to his brothers in arms saved countless lives. His life was about much more than his skill with a rifle. It was about duty. It was about honor. And it was about standing in the gap when others were in danger. Chris Kyle was born on April 8, 1974, in Odessa, Texas. The Texas of Chris's youth was a place where values ran deep, where neighbors knew each other, where hard work was expected, and where the outdoors was a way of life. He grew up with his younger brother, Jeff, in a home where his parents instilled in him the kind of character that would shape everything he would later become. His father, Wayne, was a Sunday school teacher and deacon who believed in discipline, accountability, and faith. His mother, Debbie, was a strong, loving presence who believed in raising her sons to be respectful and responsible. From a young age, Chris had a rifle in his hands, not for violence, but for skill. His father taught him how to hunt deer and birds, emphasizing safety, patience, and respect for the weapon. In the wide open spaces of Texas, Chris learned to steady his breathing, to track his target, and to make each shot count. He was a natural marksman, but more importantly, he learned that every pull of the trigger was a choice that carried weight. As a teenager, Chris was drawn to physical challenges. He loved rodeo riding, especially bronco busting, and he dreamed of making it professionally. The adrenaline, the grit, and the danger were things he thrived on. He also worked as a ranch hand, putting in long, grueling hours in the sun, building the toughness that would later carry him through some of the hardest days of his life. But a serious injury from a rodeo accident changed his path. Professional riding was no longer possible. Chris found himself at a crossroads, wondering where his determination and toughness could be put to use. That answer came when he met a Navy recruiter who told him about the SEALs. At first, the recruiter suggested regular Navy service, but Chris wanted more. When he learned about the SEALs, the most elite warriors in the Navy, trained to operate in the toughest conditions on Earth, he knew he had found his calling. The recruiter was honest. Becoming a SEAL was a grueling, nearly impossible challenge. Most who tried would fail. But that only fueled Chris's determination. In 1999, Chris enlisted in the United States Navy. He reported for basic underwater demolition/SEAL training, better known as BUD/S, in Coronado, California. For months, Chris endured the most intense physical and mental trials the military had to offer. Long runs in deep sand, endless push-ups and pull-ups, freezing surf torture, and the infamous Hell Week, 5.5 days with almost no sleep, constant physical punishment, and relentless mental pressure. This was where many men broke. But Chris Kyle didn't break. Every step, every wave, every aching muscle brought him closer to the goal. He wasn't just training for himself, he was training for the men he would one day serve alongside. When he graduated and earned the SEAL Trident, he joined SEAL Team 3. It was a moment of pride, but also a moment of commitment. Chris understood the responsibility he carried. He specialized as a sniper, a role that required not just precision shooting, but the patience to wait for hours, even days, for the perfect moment, and the calmness to make life or death decisions in an instant. After the attacks of September 11, 2001, Chris's life changed forever. America was at war. In 2003, during the invasion of Iraq, Chris deployed on his first combat tour. He was sent to protect Marines and soldiers as they moved through hostile cities. In Nasiriyah and later in Baghdad, Chris spent long hours on rooftops, scanning the streets, watching for enemy fighters. Each time his rifle barked, it meant he had seen a threat, someone about to harm his brothers on the ground. Every shot was taken to protect, never to boast. It was in Fallujah, during his second tour, that Chris's reputation began to grow. In the brutal house-to-house fighting, his position as Overwatch saved entire squads from ambush. Marines began to feel a sense of reassurance when they knew Chris Kyle was watching over them. They knew that if they moved into a dangerous street, someone up high was scanning every doorway, every rooftop, every shadow, ready to act. During his third tour in Ramadi, Chris faced some of the fiercest urban combat of the war. The insurgency there was determined, well-armed, and brutal. Chris became known among them as the Devil of Ramadi, a name given in fear and respect. They even placed a bounty on his head. But the more dangerous it got, the more determined Chris became. He stayed focused, using every ounce of skill to ensure that his team could accomplish their missions and return safely. On his fourth and final tour, Chris continued to be the silent guardian for countless missions. By then, he was one of the most experienced snipers in the field. He had seen enough to understand the toll of war, the friends lost, the constant danger, and the weight of each trigger pull. But he also saw the difference his role made. His confirmed kills, over 160, were not numbers to him. They were moments where a fellow American got to live because he was in the right place at the right time, doing his job. For his service, Chris Kyle received 2 Silver Stars and 4 Bronze Stars with Valor, along with other commendations. But he rarely spoke about the medals. What mattered to him was the brotherhood, the mission, and the lives saved. When he left the Navy in 2009, Chris faced one of his hardest battles adjusting to life at home. The noise of combat was gone, but the memories remained. Like many veterans, he struggled to find a new purpose. But Chris refused to let that struggle define him. He focused on helping others. He co-founded the Fitco Cares Foundation, providing fitness equipment and support for veterans dealing with physical and emotional injuries. He also personally worked with veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress, taking them shooting, listening to their stories, and offering his friendship without judgment. In 2012, Chris published his autobiography, American Sniper. It became a bestseller, not because it glorified war, but because it told the truth, the good, the bad, and the deeply personal. He spoke openly about the sacrifices made, the friends lost, and the pride he felt in serving his country. The book reached millions, giving civilians a rare glimpse into the life of a Navy SEAL sniper and the costs of protecting freedom. Sadly, on February 2, 2013, Chris Kyle's life was tragically cut short when he and his friend, Chad Littlefield, were killed while trying to help a troubled veteran. The news sent shockwaves across the nation. Thousands attended his memorial at Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas. People from all walks of life came to honor him: veterans, law enforcement officers, ordinary citizens, all grateful for his service and sacrifice. Chris Kyle's story didn't end with his passing. His legacy continues through the veterans he helped, the lives he saved, and the family who keeps his memory alive. His example reminds us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite it. It's about standing for something greater than yourself. From the dusty streets of Iraq to the quiet fields of Texas, Chris Kyle lived with purpose. He was a warrior, a husband, a father, and above all, a man who loved his country and the people in it. Here on Nation of Glory, we honor him, his service, and the principles he stood for. Christopher Scott Kyle, America's most legendary sniper, and a true embodiment of service and sacrifice. Thanks for watching. If you believe in honoring those who gave their all for this nation, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Nation of Glory for more stories that keep their memories alive.